From being a national icon and a varsity basketball star at just 11 years old.
My next guest is 4'5", but he's a giant on the basketball court. At just 11 years old, he's the star point guard on his high school's varsity basketball team.
To becoming the least respected basketball player on the internet. This is the story of Julian Newman, who started tapping basketball as soon as he learned to walk. He was just 3 years old when his father, Jamie Newman, a former Colonial HS point guard, had him play with regulation-sized balls. Young Newman would make 100 free throws, 200 floaters, and 200 jump shots each day at practice with his father. Soon, he was participating in recreational leagues, playing against players older than him, and at times, outclassing them. In 2012, Newman transferred to Downey Christian School in Orlando, where his father already taught history and coached the school's basketball team. While having his father as a coach got him more playing time on the court, he had to go through rigorous training to back up his pick on the team. As a 5th grader, Newman debuted for the middle school team and instantly bumped his way to the varsity team after scoring 91 points in a game. But with a height just above 4 feet and 70 pounds in size, Newman couldn't even fit into the smallest uniform available in the team. He had to use hair ties to tighten his jersey and roll waistbands so his shorts wouldn't fall off. Before he entered 6th grade, he was averaging 12.4 points with 11 assists per game during his varsity team career while leading the state of Florida in assists. But his fame wasn't limited to Florida alone. At 12 years old, he had become a national icon when a workout video posted on YouTube by Elite Mixtapes went viral overnight, currently boasting over 19 million views. Reuters called him pint-sized Florida youth basketball prodigy. And just like that, Julian was making appearances on Steve Harvey, The Ellen Show, and Good Morning America. He was the child prodigy everyone wanted to feature. He even got locker room access to meet Kobe Bryant, who called him a role model for his kids. The hype even led him to perform at halftime during an Orlando Magic NBA game. In 2013, Newman was labeled as the best 6th grade basketball player after averaging a double-double, with 17 points and 9 assists per game in 6th grade. The Tampa Bay Times called him the most marketed 12-year-old basketball player in the world. His fame had already hit the roof and he was cashing every bit of it. He had his own clothing merchandise through his family's clothing brand, Prodigy, while he was still playing school basketball.
This is our new merch, Prodigy brand. Go get your gear. Oh, a little endorsement there.
In 2015, Julian started his own documentary series, Born Ready, which followed his journey from being a kid to becoming a school basketball star.
Well, how you deal with the pressure?
Really just have to keep working. Don't let it get to your head, because kids are always working just like you, maybe even harder, but you can't let nobody outwork you. No matter how big your name is, you still gotta work.
And by the time he finished high school, he had become so used to the reality TV glamour that he launched his own show, Hello Newman's, starring him and his family, playing hotshot sports celebrities. While Newman's skills were surely advanced for his age, some critics were already calling it a misguided overhyping, counting him as more of a celebrity than a basketball player. But Newman's performance on the court and his stat sheet didn't falter, at least for another year. As a 7th grader, he became the youngest player ever to record 1,000 career varsity points, and his stats were phenomenal. He averaged 19.8 points, 10.2 assists, and 3.2 steals per game, and the streak continued into his sophomore year, where he scored 3,873 points, breaking the 20-year-old prep record in all of Florida. And when it counted the most, in a high-profile matchup against Kyrie Walker, Newman brought in 52 points, a highlight video that gained over 9 million views on YouTube. At the end of his high school, Julian posted an average of 34.7 points, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds per game. But more than that, his highlights were on everyone's phone screen across America, as he had over 800,000 followers on Instagram. Everywhere I go, I have guys trying to make a name off of me because of all my videos, but I take that as a sign of respect. By 2019, there were 74 videos on YouTube featuring Julian Newman that had over 1 million views. For perspective, the NBA Rookie of the Year that year, Luka Doncic, had only 20 such videos to his name, yet many thought it was a little too soon to declare him a basketball prodigy, and their concerns turned out to be valid. In the 2018-19 season, he marked up solid stats, averaging 34.7 points with 7 assists and 5 rebounds per game, and yet he failed to impress any college scouts. The hype he had built over his teenage years couldn't even promise him a college offer. As questions about his skill range and lack of versatility grew, Julian realized that viral YouTube highlights weren't enough to get him into the NBA. Instead of seeking new coaching to improve his shot variety and develop his game across different positions, Newman stuck with his father's pampered coaching style, a decision that would impact his very future in basketball. Even though his father claimed that Julian had received a stack of D1 offers from top colleges, in 2019, he enrolled at Prodigy Prep, a basketball-centric school created by his father and named after his clothing line, Prodigy. And to keep Julian's monopoly on the court, his father was now acting as the head basketball coach for the team. Many called it more of a marketing gimmick to popularize their brand and safeguard Julian's spot in D1 than an academy that prioritized basketball for everyone. This made students hesitant to come to Prodigy Prep, fearing that it might shut down mid-season. Despite claims of receiving over 10,000 applications, Jamie Newman could only entice a handful of decent players. Prodigy Prep looked more like a team than an academy. But for Julian entering a new school for his senior year, it seemed like a desperate attempt to attract college recruiters in the name of skill development, and people saw right through it. How old is this dude? Seems like he's been playing forever at the high school level. Also, he gets a lot of attention for someone who has no real career in basketball. It had no chance of offering Julian the level of competition he needed to improve his game. At Prodigy Prep, Newman had complete freedom on the court, free to take as many ill-advised shots as he wanted and rack up empty stats against weak competition. Basketball is a team sport. If you're aiming for individual accolades, then you should have played golf or tennis. But for Julian, it wasn't a bad trade-off. It helped Julian rack up cool-looking mixtapes, more exposure for his brand, and boosted his Instagram follower count. During his tenure with Prodigy Prep, Julian played a total of 36 games, averaging 32.3 points, 6.9 assists, and 5.4 rebounds per game. Those were insane stats for any high school senior, but there was more to it. In reality, Prodigy Prep was getting dominated by the worst team they've played all year. The flashy ball handling and half-court shots that earned Julian millions of fans also worried potential recruiters, viewing him less as a potential one-and-done prospect and more as an and-one-and-done. But following his 9th year playing for high school, it wasn't just his playing style or its absence that kept him there, but it almost looked like Julian wasn't built for the NBA after all. From his first day of high school to his senior year, Julian barely grew, adding only a few inches to his height. By his final year, he stood at just 5'7", almost a foot smaller than most of his opponents. This made him an easy fish to catch for taller defenders, but that wasn't his only problem. Unlike shorter players like 5'9" Nate Robinson, who could dunk with ease and block shots against taller opponents, or the 5'3" Muggsy Bogues, who scored 6,800 points over a 14-season career as the shortest NBA player, Julian lacked the athleticism to bypass his physical shortcomings. He couldn't jump and dunk, lacked the IQ to make effective passes inside the arc, and never really developed the ability to break through the defenses and score from close range. After all, for him, scoring three-pointers from beyond the arc made cool content for social media. Since basketball and American football are the two sports where size holds the key, many wondered if perhaps he chose the wrong sport. If he played baseball or soccer as well as he does basketball, he'd have a future. The much bigger guys in D1 college and the NBA will kill him. There's no way he'll be able to shoot over a 6'6" guy unless he shoots from half court. But with his father's determination to live his NBA dream through his son, Julian never really had an option elsewhere. Jamie marketed his every move on social media and put him on a national spotlight for everyone to see and pass comments on.
I couldn't dream it would be this fast, so quick. It's amazing how fast it's taken off.
From launching merchandise to securing interviews with national TV outlets, and even producing a docu-series about Julian, Jamie turned his son into a star long before he was ready for the spotlight.
I've been playing kids older than me and taller than me for my whole life. I never really played my age or my height or anything.
Instead of focusing on proper team play, Jamie pushed Julian to create an image, one designed to look good in viral mixtapes.
Sometimes I wish my dad didn't run my entire life.
It was clear that Jamie was trying to live his hoop dreams through his son, but perhaps he set the wrong ideals to achieve that. He envisioned his son becoming the next Steph Curry or LeBron James, but instead he was following LeVar Ball's playbook, micromanaging his son's career, aggressively marketing him online, and making outlandish claims to the media, which had people commenting like, "Is this the pirate version of the Ball family?" Plus, his father's intense coaching style came with a lot of baggage. During his matches, you'd see his father shouting and screaming from the sidelines,
"Come on, man, box up!"
And Dad's certainly not helping him.
Shot clock! Shot clock! Shot clock! What? You don't see on the court?
always pushing him to the limit, but oftentimes it only added to the pressure.
All this talk, show something!
All the pressure suddenly starts getting to me.
You gotta get it across.
While Julian showcased offensive talent and consistently led the points table in every game, his team rarely found success. They were routinely blown out by some of the lowest ranked schools in the state. However, Julian and his father became too reliant on the hype, believing that if people were talking about him, college offers would inevitably follow.
If Julian wants to be a star, he has to be way more comfortable on camera. Hey, Julian, be a little more energetic, you know what I mean? Be more a little energetic. We play in the best conference in the nation and want to show people that we belong. Handle pressure, you're not going to be a star.
But to most recruiters and even his opponents, Julian was overrated. When it came to players with real NBA potential who displayed skills on the court, Julian was quickly outclassed. He struggled to keep up in head-to-head matchups and had yet to face any serious competition. But as the competition got taller, stronger, and more skilled, Julian's play seemed severely under par. Against IMG Academy, Julian and Prodigy Prep were thoroughly outmatched, suffering a humiliating 59-point defeat. Julian wasn't a team player. In fact, he was never trained to be one. Being the son of the team coach, Julian was groomed to be a standout star, one who looks flashy while scoring three-pointers.
The quickest pull-up you're probably going to see from somebody, Steph Curry can't move that fast.
Jamie's philosophy was simple: shoot the ball from 30 to 40 feet out, because that's what brings the defense out and opens everything up. As for defense, he never really cared. Little did he know that not every college coach would want a small guard who looks for his own shot, instead of making openings for the team. Even West Oaks coach Kenny Julian saw it coming. You're talking about a guy taking upwards of 20 shots a game. That's unrealistic. I think he's going to have to show college coaches he can be effective without taking so many shots. Despite Jamie hyping Julian as being better than NBA stars like Derrick Rose and Chris Paul, he seemed destined to be a hot college prospect. Yet no college scholarship or D1 offers came his way, so much so that Jamie had to create his own school to give Julian a platform to shine, a step that inflated his ego rather than his skill set. Despite his career going downhill fast, Julian couldn't hide his cocky, better than everyone attitude, which often led him to take things too personally, sometimes even with his own teammates. Despite being humiliated on the court from pretty much anybody, Julian never stops his antics, including starting fights and creating drama on the court, a definition of peaking too early, since Julian was told he's special all his life enough that he cannot accept reality anymore. Whether it's trash-talking opponents or picking up fights during practice, Julian was always the one driving the chaos, and sometimes his dad chimed into the heat as well. After the SIAA match, the opposing team had to forfeit the match when OCP's coach, Julian's father, stepped onto the court to confront a player. Unable to keep his anger and frustration under control, even minor altercations turned into real fights on the court, and it even impacted his game. During a game against IMG Academy, things escalated so much that he threw a chair at his opponent, sparking a full-blown brawl. Instead of staying grounded, Julian was always looking for the next big moment that would get him more attention. His temperament never seemed to fit with any team he joined. He remained a child star pampered by his father and praised by by his social media followers. Over time, Julian was being termed as the most hated basketball player online. Yet, in his mind, he was the greatest high school athlete of all time, still believing there was a place for him in the NBA, or at least a college contract. Wonder how many points the people with only 3 years would have had if they got 10 years like Julian did. Ever since high school, Julian had the most questionable shot selection, whether it's the deep three-pointers or off-balance mid-range shots. But since he was 4'7" and a kid who dribbled well, it never really mattered to his coach father. But continuing this same style for 9 years with zero improvement, it became clear he wasn't playing to win, but rather to rack up highlight-worthy points that would impress fans. And even with his quick and flashy dribbling, which got him TV show appearances in childhood, Julian struggled to break through defensive lines. In the NBA, efficiency is key, but Julian's game was more about feeding his ego with impossible-looking shots, rather than focusing on actual game-winning plays. His shot attempts near the rim were often poor, and his mid-range shots over taller defenders were widely criticized. His jump shots were unorthodox and sometimes downright amateurish. The low release from his chest that looked flashy in highlight reels couldn't get past real defenders on the court. Against IMG Academy, he was blocked, struck down repeatedly even when the defenders weren't giving in their best effort. Besides, the way Julian played, it seemed like they didn't have to at all. Julian's pick-and-roll attempts were consistently failures, and his selfishness on the court became a point of contention. Julian Newman is a fraud who was always undersized and overconfident. He's someone who's never changed his game, because he was always told he's the best. Julian became hyper-focused on 1v1 basketball, and the spectacle of individual showmanship rather than running the actual gameplay. He rarely ever made passes and had completely forsaken his defense. His self-centered approach led him to believe he was the only player on the court, always attempting to take on defenders himself instead of planning a team game. The same thing happened against his match against Spire in 2019, or one should say against LaMelo Ball. Julian Newman got owned by LaMelo without him even trying. LaMelo showcased an all-around play with nifty passes and an alley-oop, finishing with a triple-double, 14 points, 12 assists, 10 rebounds, and 5 steals. Spire secured a dominant 117-80 victory over Downey Christian. Julian's performance in comparison barely made a dent in the highlights. He scored just 16 points, shooting 6 of 25 from the field. Julian's future in professional basketball looked bleak, if not non-existent. Soon rumors had it that Julian was planning to skip college altogether and take a shot at playing overseas. Perhaps a shot in China, Australia, or a European league, and somehow develop NBA-worthy skills and enter the draft next year. He even hinted at a potential G League offer from Mark Cuban, but they soon turned out to be a hoax. The opportunities simply weren't there, and Julian wasn't bright or hardworking enough to dig them up overseas. His high school resume was stat-padded with impressive numbers, but when looked closely, they didn't really mean anything. team. His college career ended with an average of just 3 points per game. It became painfully clear, even to his remaining fans, that Julian Newman was not cut out for even amateur level competition, which meant going back to the only place he ever truly dominated: YouTube. In 2023, he launched his own channel, posting clips of basketball shots, 1v1 pickup games against other amateurs and ex-pro players. He occasionally streams on Twitch as well, playing video games or simply chatting with his fans. Julian is more active than ever on Instagram, regularly posting content for his 1.3 million followers. He now focuses on pulling off wild basketball stunts, promoting his merchandise, and creating content to keep him in the spotlight. One of his latest ventures is participating in creator leagues, where he faces off in 1v1 games against former players or other social media stars. Sometimes even in dodgeball, this time not for stats but for views. For Julian, if there's a way to grab more eyeballs and make more money, he's ready to chase it. One time he even went head-to-head with Floyd Mayweather in a friendly match. And with the rise of combat sports among social media stars and influencers, he saw an opportunity to cash in. Coming from a basketball background, Julian was in many ways out of his depth in the ring.
Footwork, and I'm fast at basketball, so I'd like to say I'd be fast at this sport, but we'll see.
He faced off against fellow basketball turned social media influencer Gio Wise in an exhibition match. His quick and shifty feet finally steered him clear of his unremarkable basketball career. Newman won his first ever boxing match. He boldly challenged Oblivion for a $100,000 fight, and on that record, Julian seems set for a bright future. But his professional basketball career seems to have come to a standstill, with little hope for the future. Julian's skills never fully developed. He wasn't genetically endowed, and was heavily marketed since childhood, which made his attitude more volatile than ever. Perhaps if he played baseball or soccer as well as he does basketball, he'd have a blasting future, but who's to say?